She's not happy.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Recently I made a little post on Instagram. I said we're gonna be doing some Supra content in the near future. That future pretty much starts now. Well, essentially not really in this video because we're kind of giving you a little bit of an update and kind of the reasoning. The Supra is gonna get a little bit of a refresh. It runs and drives, and I haven't really had an excuse to make it make more power, make it better, because it's, you know, it's not going to an event. I don't have to drag race it. I don't have to do anything like that. And that is actually changing. So the Supra and I am going to be on an Amazon show called Banging Gears, and we're gonna be filming at the beginning of February. So it is the beginning of January right now, and we don't have very much time to make this thing make some horsepower. So how much horsepower do you think this needs to make?
I think we were talking like 800.
Pretty much 800 at the tire.
Yeah.
And so we got Garrett over here today. We are doing a little bit of work on the Mustang. We'll get into that in a little bit. But right now we are kind of going through some of the planning stages and the things that we need to do with the Supra. So as of right now on the Mustang dyno, this thing was tuned like 4 years ago. I haven't done anything to it since
it was built. Wow.
It's literally been tuned, and I haven't done anything with it. So it made like 580 horsepower at like 29, 30 pounds of boost on a Mustang dyno. I think it might make a little bit more power if it was on like a dyno jet or something like that. The fastest it has been in the quarter mile, which was on these tires right here, which is some 285/40 18s, 285/35 18 Nitto NTO5s. That was on Rocky Mountain Race Week. It ran a 10.93 at 134 miles an hour.
That's pretty good.
And that was, it spun a little bit in second, but it was a pretty good launch. It was kind of a soft launch, not super aggressive. But with this Amazon TV series, I'm essentially going to be racing a McLaren 720S that runs a 10.0 stock, and it's tuned. So
it's not coming to the event stock.
Yeah, no, it's definitely going to be a little bit upgraded. And those things are like supercomputers. They make power, they put it down. They're an 8-speed automatic, like dual clutch type transmission. This is a 6-speed manual with old Trevi shift in it instead of a computer. So it's
all-wheel drive or
all-wheel drive. All-wheel drive. I think they're all-wheel drive.
I think it would have.
I'm pretty sure. Pretty sure there are. But basically, we're going to be racing a super computer in my Supra. Maybe this is the Supra computer. I'm the Supra computer. Technically, I'm the Supra computer. It has a supercomputer. So yeah, we need to do a little bit of upgrading in this thing. Basically, the class that I'm going to be racing in is between 600 and 800 horsepower. There's a dyno at where we're going to be racing, and you can't change anything. You can't like have any boost control stuff like after that. So essentially, it has to make a maximum of 800 horsepower at the event, and then you can't change anything, and then you basically have to race. So with the race, it's a quarter-mile drag race. It's a 0 to 60, 0 to 100, 40 to 140, 0 to 100, and then back to 0. So we got to rely on the brakes again. Supra computer.
Yeah, that's right. New merch.
Yep.
Coming soon. Supercomputer.
Supercomputer, and it's an arrow pointing up at me. You know, this thing definitely needs some upgrades, probably in the braking department. These are the factory twin turbo Supra brakes. This is a factory 2GZ GTE VVTi. I think we need to change some things. Initial plan was to build this engine. What do you think about that?
And now down to the wire pretty much.
Do you think we have time to build?
I think we have time to build a backup motor, and if it comes together in time, we'll get that in.
So as of right now, the plan is upgraded cams with this thing, a different drive-by-wire throttle body. I have a new Wiring Specialties harness for this thing already ready to go, and a different turbo. So the goal is to get this thing to make 800 wheel and traction control with ECU Master. That's going to be a huge thing. Oh, I forgot to say, road course race as well. Ooh, yeah. I have to race that thing on a road course, which is going to be crazy.
And it's never been on a road course.
It's never been on a road course. And I've done a little bit of road course stuff, but again, it's the Supra computer against the super computer. Like a McLaren 720S, a tuned McLaren 720S that's probably going to be making 800 and has an 8-speed training, can use all of it and all of the brakes and the downshifting and the ABS. I have no ABS on this thing. So it's going to be I'm feeling a little outgunned, a little bit outgunned, but there's nothing we could do but try to make this thing come together pretty quick. But that is kind of, I guess that's kind of the update. That pretty much explains everything.
We got a couple ideas on what we're gonna do to kind of facilitate some of that upgrade. I'm not sure if you want to go into that or make that a surprise.
Go ahead. What are we gonna do?
I think one of the things on the agenda was changing out intercooler possibly. Maybe to get some of that power up, get something that might be a little bit more efficient. Either same size and better quality, or bigger and equal quality.
Essentially, this is like a cheaper 4-inch core, and I think it works good. I haven't really done any like back-to-back testing or like looked at like the intake air temp things. So
what if we reach out to Garrett? If they have a core that's the same size, we could literally just lop off the tanks, not change anything, weld it to the new Garrett core. I mean,
that might be a good option. The other thing that we're looking at is potentially, instead of going super crazy with like upgrading the brakes, is just maybe do some brake ducting. You know, do some brake ducting to keep the brakes cool on this thing, do some different pads, some fluid and stuff on it. So yeah, that's kind of the update. We basically need to get this thing at 800 wheel within the next month, and that pretty much is going to start probably in the next video. We're going to start adjusting some things and start ordering some parts. Well, I've already ordered some parts for this thing, but I'm excited to kind of show you guys some things with that. But this whole kind of situation we might be able to pull together a backup engine at the last minute. So that's where this thing comes in. None of you guys know that this happened, but this is my S14, 2GZ S14. It ran without oil at the last Grid Life event, idled for 30 seconds without oil. So Sean basically pulled this thing apart when where was I? I was at PRI. And we were going to just throw some new bearings in it. As we tore it apart, kind of showed a little bit more wear on the bearings, a little bit of wear on the cams, just a little bit more wear on everything that I would like. And it kind of works out good, because where I would like to go with the Supra, which is like 1,000+ horsepower eventually,
at least the capacity,
at least have the capacity to do it, is I need a built engine. The 2JZ S14 drift car doesn't really need a built engine.
Nah, I mean every car needs a built engine, right? But it doesn't need it. I mean, this thing's probably going to live its life mostly under 600 horsepower. Yeah.
So the goal is, it works out really good. So we have an opportunity to dial in this car as it is and build an engine on the side, right?
I think
and if it comes together, we just swap it out. So that way I could take this thing to the road course. We can mess with the traction control, play with different turbo setups, and get the chassis and me dialed in, get me a little bit more seat time in it. And then if we can at the last minute, the day before the event, we could swap the motor in it, throw it on the dyno. Technically, maybe not that close, but
the goal is definitely to keep the car together as much as possible from now until then. If we go and pull the motor out and send it off to machining, we could put ourselves in a bad spot. But if we can keep it together, like Trevor said, and have a motor to swap at the very end, and in the meantime take it to the track and do stuff, that's a smart move.
And it also makes sense for putting the S14 back together too, because then we take a proven engine, a good engine that we just made 800 horsepower on, and then we just put it back in the S14, and it'll have upgraded valve springs, retainers, cams, and all that stuff. Basically, we'll just swap a different turbo setup in this thing and go from there. So I'm pretty excited. If you guys know, I need a purpose. I need a reason to do something, and the Supra up until now has just been good. It's a good car. I drive it on the weekends, well, probably once a weekend during the month. Once a weekend, I drive it once a month, possibly. We did Rocky Mountain Race Week in it in 2020, and I haven't even changed the oil since then. Technically, I haven't even changed the oil in this engine since it's went in the car.
No kidding. Well, synthetic, yeah.
Synthetic. It only has like 3,000 miles on it anyhow, so it's probably about time, but, maybe that's it. So what do we got for update on the Mustang? We got this, right?
Mustang, this was kind of fun. So see if I can yank that off without wasting too much of your time. But this was kind of fun. So if you know anything about the 7.3 in anything but a truck or a van, the throttle is a huge issue.
It sticks up.
Yeah. So we made a pattern off of I think I worked it off the throttle body to be exact, but went to Send Cut Send, and we did some flanges. They cut them in 3/8 aluminum, And then I took them and
those turn out really nice.
Yeah.
Laser these, right?
These are laser cut, yeah. And then I put it on the lathe, did a receiving groove in there so we can kind of mock up and do all the things. Drilled and tapped the holes, all those things. So the original plan was that we were going to, yeah, that's the right way. We were going to just kind of go like something in that area. Basically something that's going to shoot us in the direction of intercooler piping. I still don't think we have enough clearance.
Intercooler piping?
Oh, well, the future possibility of intercooler. There's nothing set in stone, but we want to set ourselves up in a good spot if we can. But to clear the hood anyways, I think we're going to need one more of these elbows. And we got one of those on order, so we'll add another section here.
And I think we're going to have to give it a flat top too.
Yeah, exactly.
To get it to kind of sit below the hood.
Because it's a good almost inch above the hood line there. But that's the game plan for now. So we'll kind of set the throttle body in this general direction. That gives us a great spot for like a filter, and it's out of the way of everything. And you know, everything needs a turbo, so we'll plan around that as a possibility.
We were kind of looking at it. Also, basically we're at the mock-up engine mount stage. We also have my oil pan is cracked, so we have a new oil pan, we have a new starter, and then you're working on this header, which a big issue was right down here with that steering shaft. Yep. So what are you doing with that thing?
So got it cut up in a couple spots. Initially, we had it as, you know, everything together just like this, and we cut the flange off here right where it passes the steering rack. We were going to try to see if we could do something to change the angle here to clear the steering column. It wasn't quite enough. So we'll kind of manipulate this a little bit, kind of pie cut it to kind of get it inbound a little bit. We do the same thing on the manifold flange here. So mocked it up in there, and I need to kind of pie cut in there about 1/4 of an inch, something like that. So where these are cut apart, we'll kind of close in that gap, basically take out some material on the bottom of both sides. That should give us the clearance we need to get around the rack, and we'll just weld this back together. And this was definitely, in my opinion, the fastest way that we can get a manifold on the car and down the road. So this kind of sets us up really nice to go exhaust out the back and move on. So this was kind of a hurdle to make a decision on.
And you already did, this is passenger side, that works good?
Yeah, so this will be the same size, the same idea for the driver's side. We just welded a V-band straight to the factory manifold. Being new, it actually welded up pretty nice. So kind of same idea there. We'll just get that welded on there. Really nice fitment there, 2 1/4, worked out really well. So yeah, once those things are in place, you know, I think the hard part of the swap is the exhaust on the driver's side. The rest is pretty straightforward there.
Yeah. So moving right along with that thing, still kind of a delay on what I'm doing with the ECU, but getting over that kind of hurdle right there. We are waiting on a clutch to come in, but really once we get like the wires in the engine bay and that header's done.
Yeah.
And also the other thing is Texas Speed just released their 7.3 camshaft line, and people are pretty much making almost 600 horse and almost 600 torque with these things pretty much just stock. Obviously that's on an engine dyno, but still, I mean, it from going, you know, from a stock engine that makes like 400 and some foot-pounds of torque to like 600 foot-pounds of torque, and it being a 7.3, this thing's going to be an absolute blast. And eventually the plan is to probably put some boost to it. But yeah, that's a little bit of an update right there on the Mustang. So you know, kind of waiting on parts. Obviously it's kind of weird, like ever since I got back from PRI, it's like you couldn't really do anything with any companies because of PRI because they're busy, and then it's the holiday season, and then New Year, and then Observed New Year, and all these other things. And then we went to the LZ Invitational, and like I should have ordered parts. So now we're at the last minute scramble ordering parts and things like that. Also, the Foxbody Mustang, we drove this out to the shop when Ben and Herman from PRP showed up and hung out for a little bit. I let them drive it, and we're still trying to figure out the boost control on it. So I think we're talking with Garrett about possibly adding a 60 millimeter gate on the top of the housing at a different angle, and maybe that will help us with the boost control. Basically, as soon as it gets high load, it just shoots up past 20 pounds, and it's really fast. But then it hits boost cut. So we need to learn how to control that. I think if we would have stuck with possibly the initial plan of doing the 2, 45 gates on each bank. But then kind of as a last minute thing, I was like, hey, Garrett, let's just weld this thing on the housing to save some time, save some fabrication time. And, you know, I think maybe the angle has something to do with it. Maybe, I don't know.
I think between the two things, angle and a little bit of size would make a big difference. I think just for the time constraint, we basically welded it straight to the housing. I think we just didn't have the material and time to
give it like a chimney almost.
Yeah, basically you want to prioritize the wastegate whenever you can. You know, shoot straight at the valve of the wastegate. Not really do it.
And I think this thing, once it starts kind of spinning up and it gets all that volume. I mean, this thing's a 4.8. This is a big dog.
Sure.
You know, trying to control the boost on that thing, especially when it gets some boost going in it. It's like a fire. As soon as you get it ripping, it don't want to stop. So,
yeah. And we're kind of married to this turbine housing right now, so before we just scrap it and buy a new housing and do 2 wastegates like right off the manifolds, we're going to give this one last shot to see if we can make it function like it needs to. And that's pretty much it. And then we'll do some kind of slip fit in the crossover too.
Yep. Yeah, we need to add a little slip fit because that V-band on that other side of the thing, when we basically welded it and then we pull it off, it kind of twisted a little bit. So there's a little exhaust leak on the other side, but I would like to do some race week stuff and some drag and drive events with this thing. It's just, again, it's so crazy that we built this car in like 2 weeks.
Yeah, it was impressive for what came together.
And looking at it, it's super clean. Like everything that we did on this thing was really nice.
Like, what's the little detail that like I think made a difference? That dinky little belt tensioner.
Yeah.
Because it changed everything the way it was laid out, and it's the stupidest little thing.
Yep.
It's not a significant part of the build, but it opened up the possibility to kind of keep it simple and clean.
And then I like the bracket too, you know, to hold the turbo and all that stuff. Obviously that thing's pretty heavy. So I think that's it. I think that's the update. This thing needs a different rear end. It has like a 230 rear gear or like a 320. I think it's a 230 rear gear, and that's a 4L80. So it needs like a little bit better of a gear ratio, so that way this thing actually launches. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the little shop update. I know it wasn't super crazy, but I hope you guys are stoked to see the Supra and this thing out ripping and on an Amazon TV show probably sometime during the summer. I think we can film certain pieces of it and release it, but we can't release any of the results or anything until the official airing date of it, which I'm pretty excited about that. This thing is coming together. I mean, it's coming together.
Yeah, and basically the whole point of like jumping on this is it's kind of like getting things out of the way to kind of focus on the Supra. So kind of want to just get this to a point where we can just button it up, and you know, if we can spend, you know, maybe a week on this, then we can just be full blown on the Supra.
Well, and the other nice thing is too, is technically the S14 doesn't need anything to roll off of the lift. So this one could go over here. This thing could come right there. It don't really matter. That was the point of having 2 lifts here. Also, I was talking with Garrett about possibly doing more of a tube, not necessarily a tube front, but kind of like a tubular dimple die looking radiator support to kind of give us a little bit more room, clean this up, make it a little bit more rigid, and just make me proud of the S14
right?
Again,
it definitely needs to get some attention and brought back to life. So we'll look at different positions for intercooler, different intercoolers, radiator, and just something that kind of can make it the flagship for drift activity.
Exactly. So I'll basically have 2 drift cars, and I think I'm going to officially sell the C6 Corvette. So that thing is going to be getting listed here soon. Obviously, this thing's going to be a drift car. This thing's a drift car. I don't think I need more than 2. I mean, I'd love more than 2, but yeah, appreciate you guys watching. See you later.